Hello, everyone, and welcome again to a second special edition coronavirus episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. Once again, we didn't anticipate doing all of these extra episodes, but it's really important to me to help provide some information and the most up-to-date information to our listeners so that you can be better prepared to handle this coronavirus crisis, especially the way it's affecting the tourism industry. So a couple of things that I wanted to let you know. First of all, the SBA, if you remember in President Trump's address, he mentioned that they're pumping $50 billion into the SBA to help businesses affected by the coronavirus. And as I got into that research, I wanted to understand exactly what that program is, how businesses can apply for it, because so many destinations have dozens and in some cases hundreds of businesses that rely on travel and tourism within the destination that are going to be affected by this situation. And so I wanted to make sure that everybody understands the tools that are available. And so in reaching out to Utah's Economic Development Office to understand what it required in Utah, I was able to secure the information and understand what every small business that wants to take advantage of this program will need to do. So I want to read a portion of the email that I got from the Utah Economic Development Department, and then I want to read through the document with you guys so that you know how to educate your small businesses on what they need to do. And then we're going to post these forms that I got from the SBA in the Destination Marketers LinkedIn group so that you can actually distribute those to the people within your destination or the businesses within your destination that need help. So let's start first with just what they said. They said that at this point, we still need to demonstrate a need for assistance from the small business community, as each county will need to demonstrate an economic impact to small businesses. I invite you to share the attached file with those businesses that have been hit the hardest. These businesses will need to complete the form and submit it to the state. And it's in Utah, it's the Utah's Department of Emergency Management. And so every state has someone in this role that will be the go-to for this. But you know, the perception when I listened to President Trump's address was, oh, we can just apply directly with the SBA. But that's not the case. You need to indicate first the need for assistance through your state. So you need to find out who that person is that's over emergency management in the state. And then the state will curate all of those applications and go apply for that federal relief. And there's limited funds available. I know $50 billion sounds like a lot of money, but there's also going to be a lot of economic impact. So there's limited funds available, so it's critical that these applications get in as quickly as possible, and then the state declares the need for the funds as quickly as possible so that you can get access to those funds, or so that your small businesses within your destination can get access to those funds. So there's two things that a business will need. One is a worksheet called Estimated Disaster Economic Injury Worksheet for Businesses. And it's something that will really help the businesses quickly demonstrate interest and get it to the state, and you can basically outline what you believe the problem is going to be. It is written in past tense, meaning it's asking you what the economic impact has been, but they're requesting that you estimate what the economic impact on your business is going to be. So I'll post that in the Destination Marketers LinkedIn group so that you have access to that. And then there's a form that I just want to walk through, and I know it might be a little boring if I'm reading this, but this is critical information for small businesses, and we'll also post this in the Destination Marketers LinkedIn group. But this form is from the SBA, and it's called SBA Disaster Assistance in Response to the Coronavirus. The first bullet says the U.S. Small Business Administration is offering designated states and territories low-interest federal disaster loans for working capital to small businesses suffering substantial economic industry as a result of the coronavirus. Upon a request received from the state's territory's governor, SBA will issue under its own authority as provided by the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplemental Appropriations Act that was recently signed by the president, an economic industry disaster loan declaration. So remember, the state has to apply to that first, which means you need to indicate to your state as quickly as possible if you have a need. The next bullet, any such economic injury disaster loan assistance declaration issued by the SBA makes loans available to small businesses and private nonprofit organizations in designated areas of state or territory to help alleviate economic injury caused by the coronavirus. So remember, it doesn't even have to be limited to small for-profit businesses. This can also be certain private nonprofit organizations that are going to be hit by this, and I think there's going to be a lot of those that fall into that category. And then the next bullet, SBA's Office of Disaster Assistance will coordinate with the state's territory's governor to submit the request for economic injury disaster loan assistance. So remember, so critical that you go through the state. The next one, once a declaration is made for designated areas within a state, the information on the application process for economic injury disaster loan assistance will be made available to all affected communities, as well as updated on their website, sba.gov/disaster. So remember, once the state applies and then the funds are awarded, each small business will need to follow the link on sba.gov/disaster and actually fill out the application. So it's going to be a two-step process. The next bullet, the SBA's economic injury disaster loans offer up to $2 million in assistance per small business and can provide the vital economic support to small businesses to help overcome the temporary loss of revenue they are experiencing. So small businesses can apply for up to $2 million. The next one, these loans may be used to pay fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and other bills that can't be paid because of the disaster's impact. The interest rate is 3.75%, which if you know the SBA, that is an incredible rate. So that's a great rate for these small businesses. So it's 3.75% for small businesses without credit available elsewhere, and businesses with credit available elsewhere are not eligible. So in other words, if you have a major line of credit somewhere, you need to use that first. But if you don't have the other funding available, that's when you apply. The interest rate for nonprofits is even better at 2.75%. Next, the SBA offers loans with long-term repayments in order to keep the payments affordable. It's up to a maximum of 30 years. It's very rare that a small business will get those kinds of terms. It's a low interest rate and a super long repayment term. In most cases, you'll see like a 10, in best case, sometimes 15, 20 years if there's like a building or something like that. A 30-year repayment opportunity is very, very extended, so that's great. And terms are determined on a case-by-case basis based upon each borrower's ability to repay. The next one says SBA's economic injury disaster loans are just one piece of the expanded focus of the federal government's coordinated response, and the SBA is strongly committed to providing the most effective and customer-focused response possible. And for additional information, you can contact the SBA Disaster Assistance Customer Service Center at 1-800-659-2955. And then there's another number here. I'm not sure why. It says TTY:. I should know that, but I don't. It says 1-800-877-8339. Or you can email disastercustomerservice@sba.gov and then visit sba.gov/disaster for more up-to-date information. So this is kind of a high-level overview of what your small businesses within your destination need to know in order to apply for this disaster funding. I would recommend distributing this information to those businesses as quickly as possible because states are moving quickly trying to get those submitted, and if your state doesn't declare soon enough, then those funds may be reallocated somewhere else. So wanted to provide the tools for you to be able to help your stakeholders take advantage of this awesome government program that has come out. As more information comes out, we'll try to keep you guys updated as much as we can, but we're excited to be able to continue to bring you the things that we find as we go through this process. Thanks, everybody. Hang in there. We'll get through this just like we get through everything else. And in the meantime, just keep. I would keep creating assets as we talked about in our bonus episode last week, so that when this thing subsides, you're ready to get back in there and get the hang of it again. So thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.